Hi guys, welcome to this episode of Hope for Samson. It's a solo edition. Today I'm going to talk to you about how we made $10,000 in 22 months. So first of all, let's talk about whether or not America even has a problem. We have a good friend of ours, Mart, who goes into this video about how many storage units there are in America.
There's a type of business here in our country that has more locations than McDonald's, Subway, and Starbucks combined. More locations than McDonald's, Subway, and Starbucks. What is it that we have a business that has more than those locations? It would be storage units, all right? I looked it up. We spend $39.5 billion to store our stuff every year in over 50,000. If you drive around, you'll see them, right? I see them all the time now because my friend wrote a book called Stuff because we have a lot of stuff, right? We're going to build another 5 billion this year. We're going to build 5 billion more storage units because the other storage units are 92% full, right? We got so much stuff, we need to get more space for our stuff.
So what does that video tell us? It tells us a couple of things. Number one, America really does have a debt problem. But number two, America has a stuff problem. And you're talking that all of the McDonald's, all of the Starbucks, all of the Walmarts combined doesn't even equal the amount of storage units that we have in America. So today we're going to talk to you about why it's way smarter to have money collecting interest in the bank than it is to have junk collecting dust in a storage unit. We found this to be a real problem when Samson and I first got married, and we had a lot of debt. And so this was a really great tool, selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, to get us just a leg up on our debt-free journey. And so today we want to talk to you about exactly how we did that. So how do you sell smart? The number one way to sell smart is to buy smart. So when you're purchasing items, you really want to buy brands that are good brands and notable brands, but things that are on sale from those brands. Because if you purchase something from a brand like Hobby Lobby or West Elm or IKEA even has a really good resale value. A lot of the times you can purchase something and then resell it at just a slight discount a couple years later. I remember right when we got married, we purchased a living room rug and I loved it. I did a lot of research. Rugs were going, that same style, were going for like $250 and plus. And I found a great rug, but it was on sale for $150. I think it was from like $189. Not including tax. So I bought it. 2 years later, the same size, was available from Wayfair for the same price. And so I screenshotted the price when it was time to sell. And I sold that rug 2 years later for $150. Another brand that does really good is IKEA. My husband bought an IKEA couch in college, right? And it was leather. And or imitation leather probably. But 10 years later, when it was time for us to upgrade, we posted the couch, and we always note how many years it's been since purchase, whatnot. And that couch sold almost immediately. Within 30 minutes, a couple of college students got it from our house after posting it. But we sold it for $175, and I think he purchased it for like $600 or so 10 years later. And because IKEA still has that same couch available and you're able to screenshot that and post it, people still feel like they're getting a bargain. And y'all, that was with full disclosure, one of the legs was barely hanging on. So this was not in mint condition. But if you're able to produce for the buyer proof that this item is going for a lot less and you're getting it at a major discount, those items can go so quickly. Another tip is to buy sustainable. I don't necessarily mean in the environmental sense, that's also good, but I mean in the material sense. So if you buy a product, for instance, furniture that is cloth, that's not going to resell for as much as it would if it was hard or wood. So that meaning like leather will resell a lot better than a couch that is a cloth. Tables that are wooden, desks, chairs will go for a little bit more if they don't have any padding. And why is that? It's because the buyer is absorbing a lot of risk when any cloth is involved. So you want to post for a price that reflects that risk, right? So like, I think I bought a dresser one time from like a garage sale for $35, and we used it for, I think, 2 or 3 years, and then I did a little bit of a paint job on it, not a whole lot, but I was able to sell that dresser for about $250. And I think the lesson is, like, when you sell furniture that is really hardy and able to be sanitized, that product is going to go a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, and a little bit more for a little bit more of a margin than you would if something had cloth involved. This is another reason that I don't really have a lot of success selling clothes. Some people do, and they make bank doing apps like Poshmark, but the buyer is absorbing a lot of risk for clothes. They get misshapen, and whether or not they have pets and stains, like, it's just a whole thing. So just be aware of what kind of materials you're trying to sell. Description is everything in the world of Facebook Marketplace. The more descriptive you can be, the better, and the quicker your item is going to sell. For example, you tag descriptors, and the more words that you use to describe something, those can be entered into the search engine, and those are going to pop up every time somebody has entered the word that you put in your descriptor. For example, if I'm posting something that's mid-century style, then I'm going to use the words mid-century, I'm going to use MCM, I'm going to use modern, I'm going to use as many ways as I can to describe the mid-century style. That also goes for if a furniture piece is versatile. Like, for example, if it's, I don't know, a side table, you're going to say a side table, a bedside table, a nightstand, a plant stand, any kind of descriptor that could be used. You want to make that the most searchable item available. My favorite tagline for an item that has been used a lot and is not in mint condition and has some wear and tear on it is this has been loved well, but it's got more love to give. Or something like, this is a great item for a first-time apartment. And that communicates just that this item has been used, and it adjusts expectations, right? So when that buyer shows up at your doorstep or wherever you meet them, they are not expecting a mint piece, and you're not wasting both of y'all's time, because that can be really annoying when you think that a piece is a really good shape and then you show up. You really want to describe very, very acutely every nick, every scratch that an item has. For one thing, you want to be transparent, but for another thing, that person's not going to buy that item if they have really high expectations. You also want to be able to say things like pet-free, smoke-free. These descriptors are really good, and just let them know how the item has been used over the years. You also want to list in your description, and this is important, the reason that you're getting rid of it. You never want to say that this style I just don't like this style anymore. You want to say things like, we just don't have the space for this. I hate to give this item up. I'm really going to miss it. Why? Why is that so important? For one thing, you don't want to suggest that your taste is superior to that of a potential buyer. You want to make this item feel like they are really getting a steal. It's really hard for you to get rid of this thing because you love it so much, but you just can't. You don't have a choice. You have to set ways with it. And so I think it's really important so that the potential buyer, even subconsciously, isn't insulted at the thought of purchasing this item. You also want to be very specific when you're measuring for dimensions, and you always, when it comes to furniture, always want to measure dimensions. For one thing, this saves you time because you're going to get a lot of messages from people that want dimensions, and responding to each one of them individually, it just takes a lot of time. And so another good way to do this is, if the item is still available online, to just snapshot those dimensions. It saves you so much time, and also it's going to be way more accurate than if you would take those dimensions anyway. So save yourself time and save yourself a step. You always want to specify the desired form of payment. And that desired form of payment for me has always been Venmo or Cash App, even over cash. Never accept check or a money order for this reason. If they do Venmo or Cash App, they might respond to you and say, oh, I don't have those platforms. And then you respond with, great, let me send you a link. And that is going to give you a $5 credit. And it's also going to give me a $5 credit. So both the buyer and the seller are going to get an extra $5 for this exchange. You also want to have integrity. Would you purchase this item in this shape? Would you purchase this for this price? These are questions that you really want to think through and have integrity about, and not try to swindle your way through an exchange. Photography. This is a big one. So you want to post as many pictures as you can. Make sure the pictures are not blurry. If you have a blurry picture in 3 or 4 of your pics, it's better actually just to delete the blurry one than to have something that's not staged well. You want to open up all of your windows and make sure the lighting is great. You want to stage it with expensive items so that the value of the item that you're selling seems to appear more expensive. You always want to make sure that there's no clutter in the background. And another thing is you don't want to have, say you're selling a couch, you don't want to have any kids sitting on the couch or babies or pets, cats, dogs. That kind of subconsciously suggests that this item has been worn down a lot, because that's just what kids and pets do. And you can be transparent about whether or not it was a pet-free home or not, but it just helps aesthetically if you don't have them in the picture. When you're documenting an imperfection for a product or an item, you always want to state clearly, this chair has a mark here, take a picture of it, and then you always want to follow that up though with the functionality of the piece. So for example, if you have a couch with a stain or a rip on it, be like, hey, there's a stain as pictured, but we always had it up against a wall, so nobody ever noticed, nobody ever said anything, it's still really functional. And you just want to end on a good note so that subconsciously they're not thinking, oh, this is going to be really evident, but you also do want to remain transparent in that exchange. So how do I know what to price an object for? So one of the things that I do is I go on eBay, I go to the price where I originally purchased it from, to the website if available, and even I'll search Facebook Marketplace for similar items just to kind of get a feel of what this item is worth. And I usually price high initially. So if there's been no traction after a week or so and I priced a little higher than the other items that have been listed, I will do a discount for 5%, 5 to 10% based on the worth of the item. But I never ever delete that post and then repost for the difference. You always want to go into Facebook Marketplace and press the icon that says reduce price. So this is why, so that will be reflected when the purchaser is looking through items. They'll see, oh, this price has been marked down. And subconsciously, again, that makes the buyer feel like they're getting a good deal, like it's on sale. Even this person's come down even more. And so it gives them a feeling that they're getting a really good deal. If you're getting a lot of traffic and messages from people, questions about an item, number one, you always want to be quick to respond because that's reflected in the survey afterwards. But you also want to be very kind and don't be abrupt. For one thing, kindness is nice, but for another thing, Facebook Marketplace does have a survey, and you want your rating to be 4 to 5 stars. Why is that so important? Because if you're selling a really high dollar item, and maybe you haven't typically done that in the past, and then all of a sudden you want to sell a camera or a car or something that's more than $400 or $500 worth in value, people are not going to purchase something of that value from somebody that's got a 2-star rating. So if you're selling smaller items, but your rating system is not done so well, it's good to give a little bit of a discount. And even sometimes if they offer less than asking, I will accept the offer if I need a good rating and be like, I'll accept that if you can give me a 5-star rating in exchange. And so more than often they will. That 5-star rating in the long run is going to mean a lot more dollars than it would be the discount that you're offering anyway. If you're getting a lot of offers on an item that you just posted for less than asking, you also want to be kind in response to that, because here's typically what I'll respond when people are offering me less than asking. I'll say, this item just got posted. In a week or two, if the item is still available and hasn't sold, then I'll consider lowering the price. Would you like me to inform you if I do that? And more often than not, that communicates a sense of urgency. I've got a lot of buyers interested for asking, and they usually counter offer pretty quickly. But if not, you can always communicate with them directly if it doesn't sell. So you never want to cut those conversations off short. Convenience is money in this world, so you may get a lot of offers for people, especially from items that are going to go fast. Within 5 or 10 minutes for one of these hot items, you're going to get your inbox full, okay? And a lot of these people will come off saying something like this: I will take it off your hands and show up right now if you'll take $5 or $10 off the price. Convenience is money in this market, and that means if you're willing to be patient, more than likely you're going to get a full asking price. So just don't give in to this. Conversely, on the other side of things, and I've seen an item that could probably go for more, I'll offer to pick it up right then, because convenience is money, and sometimes the buyer is selling to come down, and that does work. But as a seller, you want to hold out and be patient, because more than likely you're going to get full asking price for that item. You also want to specify in your description no holds, because a lot of times, this is very, very common and it's super annoying. People will say, okay, I'll be on my way. I'll come pick it up next Friday. You don't want to commit to that because, oh gosh, I would say 8 out of 10 times people don't show up. And so you putting a pending marker on that item is really keeping you from getting a lot of traffic. So I always communicate no holds. And then if they persist, I say, okay, about a third of the worth of the item is what I'm going to need for a non-refundable deposit. And that will generally weed people out that aren't serious, but they can send that immediately on Venmo or Cash App. And sometimes this actually works out in your favor. I remember I was selling a dresser one time and somebody wanted to pick it up, but they knew it would go quickly. And so they Venmo'd me $50 for a $150 piece, and they never ended up coming to get it. So that was an extra $50 that I got to purchase off of that exchange. A good rule of thumb, what should I be selling, is if you have duplicates of anything in your home. For example, my husband and I, when we first got married, we were living separately before we got married. So we had duplicate dishes, we had duplicate electronics, we had duplicate, kitchen appliances. So all of these things, especially when you're merging homes, you're able to sell, and it really doesn't affect your day-to-day life. We did a lot of duplicate selling, and that was a big portion of what I was able to get this $10,000 from. Another thing is we have a rule of thumb in our house, and if we don't use an item within a 6-month period, then I usually end up selling it. And Samson probably gets a little more annoyed at this than I do, but more than likely, if you have something sitting around and it hasn't made an appearance in 6 months, you're not using it regularly anyway, and you really won't miss it. So that cash is much more beneficial to you if it's sitting in a bank account. For example, I remember Samson, when we had just been married, he came home one day from the gym and he randomly wanted to make a shake, and he was looking everywhere, opening cupboards for his blender. And I looked at him, he looked at me, he goes, babe, where is the blender at? And I was like, oh honey, I sold that months ago. And I did, because we never use a blender. How many times since then, 5 years ago, have we used a blender? Like no times. Like we have never needed a blender. So if something is just sitting around collecting dust, get rid of it and make a profit. So you might be asking yourself the question, well, what can I sell if I don't have duplicates? Gosh, I have sold things that you would not think in a million years anybody would want to offer. But I want you to change your frame of mind and think there is somebody out there in this world that wants this item. I sold a hot cocoa maker one time. I've sold bikes, furniture, of course, appliances, Christmas trees. I've sold. When we were renovating our house, I would sell doorknobs. People would come get doorknobs. People would come get old light fixtures, old ceiling fans. I sold an old sink that we were renovating. Really just anything that you would normally throw in the trash even, I want you to think through, and is there any use left in this item that somebody might want that I could potentially make a profit off of? I remember the previous owner of our home had a bunch of brick pavers in the backyard, and there was probably 20 or 30 of them, and these puppies were like heavy, and I'm like, what am I going to do with these? I don't want to take the time to install anywhere, and there really wasn't enough of them to make a project anywhere, and so I just didn't even want to haul them off to the trash. And I posted them, like $10-15, come and get all these. And somebody not only saved me the time of hauling them to the curb, but they came, picked them up, and handed me cash for something that I really just wanted to get rid of. So ultimately, if there's anything in your home that you're really just wanting to get rid of, I just want you to do a double check. Be like, can I post this first and see if there's any traction? If not, we can of course throw it in the trash or donate it. But first, is there any way that I can make a profit off of this? More than likely there is. All right, guys, that wraps us up. If you guys have any questions about if you're just now trying to sell on Facebook Marketplace for the first time, it can be an intimidating world. So I really want to be here as a resource for you. Just reach out and let me know, and I can give you advice about what an item might be worth, what you might be posting it for, what you might be doing wrong in your post, description, or whatever. I want to be here to help you guys. So just let us know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for watching that video with us, guys. We really appreciate you, and we want to be here for a resource for you, so please feel free to reach out with any questions that you might have.
Also, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you can stay up to date.